Well, folks, I have finished installing the WackO RV AC silencer. And in case you're wondering, I'm putting the headset on because of its noise canceling properties, because it's still too noisy for me in here. It's kind of sad. Now let me take this straight up so you can see the unit on the ceiling. Let me reverse that. There it is. Now there's a couple of gaps still, so I'm not real happy with the way I installed it. It's not easy for me to work with my arms over my head. And I've got some criticisms and I've got some praises on this particular unit. So we're going to cover it. Now it will only go in that direction, which seems opposite, because the intake used to be to the front of the motorhome instead of towards the rear, but it will not fit on that base unless I turn it this direction. So he kind of made it idiot proof, pretty much anyway. He didn't think about this, educated idiot, the fact that I can come up with creative ways to screw it up, which I did do. It is quieter. It is quieter, no doubt about it. It's just still not quite adequate. And of course, I had the air conditioning off for quite a while I was fidgeting with it, installing it, I guess we should say. Criticisms. Well, it's a little bit on the chunky side, a little bit more industrial looking than the original Dometic covers, which were more low profile, eggshell colored, and aesthetically a heck of a lot more pleasing than these. But we're not going to be looking at the ceiling that much. I don't like the stark white of this thing because it's just going to age and get discolored rather easily. It gives you just enough screws to do the job, and it's also suggested that you can drill 2 more screw holes and mount 2 more screws to hold it up there, so when you change air filters it will stay in place better, which I am going to do. It's necessary. There were just enough screws. Actually, it had 1 extra cowling screw. Came with 5 instead of 4, but the one took off and I haven't found it, so it's somewhere on the floor here. So I'm going to try to find it before I start vacuuming. As far as the other screws, it falls into the category of not friendly for older people with dexterity issues. So the screws are just a little bit too difficult. The screw holes are a little too difficult to see. I didn't even use the aluminum tape he gave me, and I used some of my own aluminum tape as well, just to try to tighten it up. And it's in, I can say that. Is it much quieter? Well, I'll be testing it out as I watch comedies in particular, and if I can't hear the punchlines, then we know it's too noisy. Biggest criticism: the filter, although marketed heavily and touted as having 4 levels to it, was not impressive. I think that the filter could be beefed up, improved, for sure. However, I also think that this is opened up so that he actually can entertain other air filter people and bring them aboard, which I recommend. I recommend that he get some other people with their air filters and offer some specialty filters. I think that's a good idea. There's plenty of room to do that. But putting the new filter in and changing it around is a bitch, and I don't like the design. Yes, it took a while to look at it and sort it out, and I know it works, but it's like everything's tiny screws, just barely notched, difficult to see, difficult for those of us. And I've got small hands, and I've got some dexterity, but still it's just a little bit too difficult. For this much money, I would expect, well, I don't want to see a white color like this. I'd like to see an eggshell color. something that matched a little better and wouldn't show the dirt so much. Also, I wouldn't mind something that wasn't quite so chunky and had rounded edges, but that's not that important to me. What is important is that it work and it function. And at this point I can say, yeah, I think it's a little bit better, but I don't know if I'd go through it again. Now I have one more to install, and that's in the hallway back in the bathroom, close to the bedroom. And that's very noisy because there's a lot of close reflective surfaces. So I'm letting everything run because this is the last 100-degree temperature day here, supposedly. Yeah, right. I recommend that the designer go back to the drawing board and come up with better thumb screws, better ways to change that air filter, to make it a joy to change, not to make it, I mean, it's a bitch right now to change. It's no fun at all. So I think he could improve that. So I would have to say it's a 4-star out of 5-star project. Now, one thing I really have to say, hands down, is you can call the maker of this. And I think that's pretty cool because you can get personal help. And quite often, there's not even support for products anymore. Now, what I don't care much for is the price has gone up. They've raised the price so that depending upon how you buy this thing, you can spend $50 more for it. I don't think it merits another $50, to be honest with you. Also, I have a tip, and I bet the maker thought about this. If I was the maker, I would license this thing out and go into production making silencers for all the major RV AC manufacturers out there. I mean, I think he's got a real good product here, and I think he can really do quite well, and I hope he does. If I get into another coach, would I put this in there? Most likely, but I really want to see it improved. I think that the cowling's left too empty. There could be a lot more sound deadening. I think that you could have larger thumb-sized screws. It would make it easier. As it is, it's a hassle. It's not a joy. And with something like interior air, you should be able to get up there once a week without any trouble and clean it out and wash it out. Now, I did get the spare filter, which I'm really glad I did. I think he could put better screws, larger screws in here, and I know I assembled it using manual screwdriver. He uses an electric, and I would recommend the electric set it at the lowest torque setting. But if you're like me and you're kind of a gorilla with tools, don't do it that way, because you'll run the risk of stripping this thing out. Now, how does it blend in? Well, to be frank, it kind of sticks out like a sore thumb, but then again, my air conditioner ducts are metal, painted a pure white, and these are just a little bit lighter, so it's not a bad fit, I don't think, overall. So this is the second part of my review, and I will do a third part after I've lived with it a bit and done the bedroom one to see if maybe I can, well, save what's left of my hearing and keep my sanity so this doesn't drive me nuts. I recommend you not buy an RV. I recommend you never buy a new one. I recommend you never take it into a shop unless it's something you cannot do and you don't understand. And I suggest you be very careful about who you take it to, because the RV industry is dying because of the service. It's not good and thorough service. Even the big boys who actually have got good reputations and do good work, there's just not quite the fastidiousness. There's not the attention to detail and the prevention level that I think we need to have when you're into a diesel pusher. There are 1/4 the number of diesel pushers on the road now than there were 20 years ago. The biggest problem is you cannot get good service, They charge too much for the service, and they put the screws to us. I even had a repair tech at a major facility destroy my electric steps in front of me, and I swear it was on purpose. And of course, they defended him the whole way. And I haven't spent any more money there. It's difficult. It's hard to find people and recommend them. And I really suggest you do your own work and take your time. Why? Because if you don't work on it yourself, then you won't get to enjoy it. These people that predate upon us, that call themselves techs, that they seem to have carte blanche. And so we don't even have property rights on our own coaches. I mean, they can do whatever the hell they want to it, and they get away with it. So, yeah, America's gone communistic. Well, I think WackO's RV-AC silencer is a really good first entry. I think it's excellent. Would I spend the money if they changed the product up? Well, if it was a major improvement, yes, I would, because hearing is that important to me. But the odds are no. I've spent my wad on this. It's a hell of a lot of money as far as I'm concerned, but it needed to be done. Do you need this? Well, if you're smart, you'll get in your RV and you'll travel to where you don't have to run your air conditioner. That's the way you should do it. If you're not so smart like me, then you need to take these things. But happy Friday the 13th. It's my mother's birthday. Gee, today she would have been in her 90s. I miss you, Mom. May Yahweh bless.